Major League Baseball and professional sports in general is absolutely full of what-if stories. So many players with unbelievable talent and potential enter into pro sports every year, but only a fraction ever become superstars, and an even smaller percentage turn into all-time greats. Usually careers end simply due to a lack of ability to produce at the higher levels of the game. And of course, another big career killer is injuries. And sometimes just due to circumstances, a player is never given an opportunity to prove themselves. But then there's that player with Hall of Fame talent, generational tools, and a clear path to greatness that never lives up to their full potential due to their own behavior and terrible choices. Decisions that sometimes dramatically slowed their rise and in some cases erased it entirely. All of these players reached the major leagues proving their ability was real, but they fell short of Hall of Fame careers due largely to their own bad choices, addictions, and personalities. I'm ranking these based on my own assessment of how good they would have been had they reached and maintained their full potential throughout a long MLB career, and make sure to stick around for number one, who I believe could have been mentioned alongside guys like Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and now Shohei Ohtani as the potential GOAT of Major League Baseball. Number 10, Felipe Vasquez. It's hard to say just how great Felipe Vasquez would have become had he played out his MLB career, but there's no doubt that as he entered his prime, his stuff was damn near untouchable. Vasquez was signed by the Rays as a 17-year-old international free agent in 2008 and represented the team in the 2012 Futures All-Star Game. In 2014, he was traded to the Nationals and made his big league debut in 2015 at the age of 23. He had a 2.79 ERA coming out of the bullpen for Washington, and then was traded to Pittsburgh in 2016, where he would become a star. Vasquez started out 2017 as the Pirates' setup man, but after 31 games with a .58 ERA, he got some opportunities to close out games and was so effective he became the full-time closer. He had a 1.67 ERA for the season with 21 saves and 23 opportunities, utilizing an insane fastball that reached 102.6 miles per hour. He held lefties to a .082 batting average. In 2018, he struck out a career-high 11.4 batters per nine and made his first All-Star team, followed by an absolutely elite 2019 in which he struck out 13.5 batters per 9 innings, a total of 90 strikeouts in 60 innings with a 1.65 ERA and a second All-Star nod. He was so good, teams were offering massive bundles of top prospects for him, but the Pirates decided not to trade him, planning to compete for a playoff spot in 2020, and they would need his help. They would regret the decision not to move him. 2019 would be his final big league season. With a couple weeks left on the schedule, Vasquez was arrested on several abhorrent charges. He was accused of soliciting a child, providing obscene material to minors, and having a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old. The charges included statutory sexual assault, unlawful contact with a minor, corruption of minors, and indecent assault of a person less than 16 years old. His locker was immediately cleaned out, and he was placed on administrative leave. In May of 2021, nearly 2 years since he last threw an MLB pitch, he was convicted of 15 charges, which led to a prison sentence of 2 to 4 years. He served 2 years in prison and then was deported to Venezuela, where he continued his baseball career in the Venezuelan Professional League after having not pitched in over 4 years, and even now his strikeout stuff continues to be elite, but it's unlikely he will ever step foot in the United States again, much less pitch in the big leagues. Vasquez was on his way to signing a huge multi-year deal, probably with a team like the Yankees, Dodgers, or Mets, and had the makings of a long-term elite closer similar to Aroldis Chapman or Kenley Jansen. Number 9, Matt Bush. The Padres' 2004 first overall pick, Matt Bush, looked like a can't-miss prospect from his days in high school when he hit .450 with 11 home runs while also dominating on the mound. Unfortunately, terrible decisions and a violent temper appeared to end his big league career before it even began, but he did make an astonishing comeback, which proved the type of talent he possessed. He was drafted as a shortstop, but it turned out it was on the mound where he had the most MLB potential. And had he made better choices, there's no telling what type of MLB career he could have had. Unfortunately, Bush had issues obeying the law his entire adult life, a trend that continues even today. He was arrested in Arizona a week after the draft for getting into a bar fight, resulting in a suspension. For the next couple years, he struggled with injuries and underperformance until the Padres tried him out as a pitcher in 2007. He struck out 16 batters in 17 2/3 innings with a 1.17 ERA, walking just 2. But in 2008, he got into an altercation off the field and was accused of a drunken assault involving players of a high school lacrosse team. The Padres traded him to the Blue Jays, and they put him on a strict zero-tolerance policy. But before even throwing a pitch for the organization, he violated that policy. Apparently at a party, someone drew markings on his face as a joke as he was passed out drunk. And when he woke up, he went into a rage, throwing a baseball at a woman, then banging on her car window as she tried to flee. The Jays released him immediately. He got another shot in 2010 with the Rays and pitched well in High A. He was making serious progress in 2011, averaging 13.8 strikeouts per 9 innings in Double A, but then, during 2012 spring training, Bush drove a Dodge Durango with a suspended license, went on a drinking binge, resulting in 3 accidents, each of which he fled from, but it was the final one that nearly killed a man. He hit a motorcycle, knocking off 72-year-old Tony Tufano, and then ran over Tufano's head as he drove off. By some miracle and with the help of his helmet, Tufano survived, but with terrible injuries. Bush ended up going to prison for 3 years, but his arm was so powerful and his talent so incredible that even after 3 years in prison, he garnered interest from the Texas Rangers. Bush held a showcase in the parking lot of Golden Corral where he worked, and the Rangers signed him. He made his big league debut at age 30 and ended up pitching in parts of 6 big league seasons, averaging 9.7 strikeouts per 9. That fact alone makes one wonder just how good he could have been had he stayed out of trouble from the beginning, got a proper development, and had a full big league career. He could have easily been an elite starter or reliever, but it was never meant to be for Matt Bush. Even after making one of the most incredible comebacks ever, his demons never left. In October of 2024, Bush was arrested after he allegedly fled from Arlington police and attempted to run from the scene of a multi-vehicle accident. He was charged with a DWI and evading arrest. Bush was released on bond, then arrested again and sent to jail after violating his parole in 2025 by drinking alcohol. Number 8, Yasiel Puig. Yasiel Puig is a perfect example of a guy who appeared to have Hall of Fame talent, but slowly got in his own way. His story began in Cuba, where he was one of the top baseball talents in the country, but he lived under constant threat, and after multiple failed attempts to defect, he finally made it to Mexico. He was signed to a 7-year, $42 million deal by the Dodgers, and made his big league debut at 22 years old, immediately shining in 2013, hitting .319 with 19 bombs and a .925 OPS while showing off an absolute missile for an arm. He not only had elite tools, but knew how to harness them at the big league level. Puig finished second for the Rookie of the Year, and there was no sophomore slump in 2014, as he made the All-Star Game starting lineup and broke a Dodger record with 8 consecutive games with an extra base hit and RBI. But even though the numbers were there, Puig had behavioral issues both on and off the field. He ran through stop signs, ignored situational baseball, got pulled from games for lack of hustle, and struggled to keep his emotions in check. In 2017, he gave the fans in Cleveland the finger after hitting a home run. This resulted in a 1-game suspension. Off the field, things weren't much better. He was charged with reckless driving and speeding in April 2013, driving 97 miles per hour in a 50-mile-per-hour zone. In December, he was arrested again, this time driving 110 in a 70. He was still productive on the field, but he didn't always listen to coaches, and his plate discipline, one of the few glaring issues in his game, did not improve. In 2018, the Dodgers traded him to the Reds, and he was involved in 2 bench-clearing brawls. They sent him to Cleveland, where he hit .297 to finish out the year, showing he could still hit, and there were reports that he would sign with Atlanta for the 2020 season. But after testing positive for COVID-19, the deal was nixed, and no one signed him. Then, sexual assault allegations surfaced in 2021, and it was obvious he was never coming back to MLB. His legal troubles continued in 2022 when he was charged with making false statements to federal investigators in connection with an illegal gambling operation. He initially agreed to plead guilty, but then withdrew that agreement, proclaimed his innocence, and the case went to trial. He is currently facing those charges in court. In my opinion, if Yasiel Puig had behaved off the field and channeled his immense physical gifts into a more disciplined approach, he would still be in the big leagues with career numbers that would at least put him in the conversation as a potential future Hall of Famer. Number 7, Steve Howe. Steve Howe was one of the most electric relievers of the early 1980s, pitching for the LA Dodgers. They took him 16th overall in 1979, and he quickly worked his way to the big leagues with pinpoint control and a deadly sinker. He made his debut at 22 years old in 1980 and won the Rookie of the Year award, saving a Dodger rookie record 17 games with a 2.66 ERA. And that ERA improved each year, down to 2.5 in 1981, 2.08 in 1982, and 1.44 in 1983. He threw 4 scoreless innings in the 1981 playoffs, leading up to the World Series, in which he saved the clinching game. At his peak, he looked like a potential future Hall of Fame closer, similar to greats like Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter, and Goose Gossage. Unfortunately, his career was plagued by alcohol and cocaine abuse. Howe said that he had used before games, during games, and after games. He checked himself into a clinic before the 1983 season, and that year he had a 0 ERA throughout the first month and a half. But Howe relapsed and failed to show up to a game against the Giants. He went back to rehab, and Commissioner Bowie Kuhn and the Dodgers fined him $54,000, the biggest fine in MLB history. Howe kept dominating on the mound, but on September 23rd, he missed the team flight to Atlanta and refused to take a drug test when he got there. He was immediately suspended and fined another $54,000 before testing positive for cocaine in the offseason. Howe was suspended for the entire 1984 season. He returned in 1985 and looked good through the month of May, but also arrived late to games or never showed up at all. The Dodgers eventually released him. Howe signed with the Twins and at one point disappeared for 2 days, then resurfaced. He was released again. He had to sign with an independent team, the San Jose Bees, in 1986 and had a 1.47 ERA, dominating the league, but also failed 2 drug tests, one resulting in a month-long suspension and the second resulting in his dismissal from the league. It seemed his career was over, but Howe was given yet another chance with the Rangers in 1987, but he was released after missing a workout due to a relapse. 4 years passed, with his big league career presumably over, when he walked right into Yankees camp without an official invite and impressed enough to make the team. In 1991, after 4 years away from the big leagues, he had a 2.23 ERA in 37 appearances, but he was arrested for possession of cocaine in the offseason. MLB had enough, and Faye Vincent permanently banned him, but the MLBPA filed a grievance and got the ban overturned. Howe ended up pitching 5 more seasons with the Yankees, including a 1994 season in which he had a 1.8 ERA. He somehow found a way to pitch for 12 big league seasons despite 7 drug suspensions and an addiction he just could not conquer. Without the drug problem, he would have easily become a longtime elite MLB closer, racking up close to, if not over, 300 saves. But it was not meant to be. He tragically passed away in 2006 after his pickup truck rolled over. He was not wearing a seatbelt, and toxicology reports showed that he had methamphetamine in his system. Number 6, Trevor Bauer. An unmistakable talent from a young age, Trevor Bauer was already a superstar in the making when he was drafted 3rd overall by the Diamondbacks out of UCLA, where he had a 1.24 ERA in 2011 with 203 strikeouts and 138.1 innings pitched. He not only had nasty stuff, but he was a pioneer in using high-speed cameras and advanced baseball tech to refine his mechanics. Unfortunately, he was also a magnet to controversy. He was extremely outspoken and was constantly the center of attention, and not usually in a positive way. His time was short in Arizona, with reports indicated he had a poor rapport with his catchers, caused friction in the clubhouse, and showed resistance to coaching. His time in the minors features reports of explosive outbursts and confrontations with coaches. He publicly released a rap song called "You Don't Know Me" to express his frustration. The D-backs traded him to the Cleveland Cleveland Indians. He showed flashes of brilliance in Cleveland, but the controversies continued, including the famous meltdown when he launched a ball over the center field wall as Terry Francona approached the mound to remove him from a game. There were other incidents as well, including the finger cut caused by doing maintenance on a drone, and the injury caused him to miss an ALCS start and then exit another one early. But the talent was still there, and in 2018 he had a 2.21 ERA with an 11.3 per 9 strikeout ratio, finishing 6th for the Cy Young. The Indians traded him to the Reds in 2019, and in 2020, Bauer had a 1.73 ERA in the shortened COVID season, winning the Cy Young Award. Despite all the previous controversies, which included accusations of harassing women online, he became a coveted free agent and signed a 3-year, $101 million deal with the Dodgers. He would pitch in just 17 games for the team, as Bauer was placed on administrative leave while an internal investigation took place after he was accused of sexual assault. He played his last MLB game at just 30 years old. Even though no charges were filed, MLB suspended Bauer 324 games, which was reduced by an arbitrator to 194. The Dodgers designated him for assignment on January 6, 2023, and no other teams requested his services. While Trevor Bauer did produce evidence, including text messages and videos, suggesting he was innocent and his accuser was motivated by financial gain, there was still a significant lapse in judgment for a high-profile athlete to engage in rough sex with a stranger. When weighed alongside a career marked by so many controversies and questionable decisions, it's no surprise that he built a reputation that MLB teams are simply unwilling to overlook. Bauer has found success pitching in Japan and Mexico, but who knows what type of MLB career he could have had if he was free of controversy from the beginning. Number 5, Wander Franco. Before legal issues halted his career in August of 2023, Tampa Bay Rays infielder Wander Franco was widely regarded as a generational talent and the consensus #1 prospect in baseball. A pure hitter with elite bat-to-ball skills, the switch-hitting shortstop possessed top-level bat speed and a compact stroke that allowed him to punish pitches from both sides of the plate. He also had amazing plate discipline. In 2021, he tied the record for the longest on-base streak by a player 20 years or younger at 43 games. And in 2023, he earned his first All-Star selection while leading All-American League shortstops in defensive runs saved. Franco's combination of high contact hitting, emerging power, and defensive agility made him a cornerstone for the Tampa Bay Rays, who secured him with a historic 11-year, $182 million extension, the largest ever for a player with less than 1 year of Major League service. He made his first All-Star team in 2023, a year in which he produced a 5.3 WAR for the Rays, and looked to be on the verge of an even bigger season in 2024. Before he could play that year, everything came crashing down. The downfall of Wander Franco happened incredibly fast. In August of 2023, allegations surfaced that in the Dominican Republic, he had an inappropriate relationship with a 14-year-old girl. Prosecutors filed serious charges, including sexual abuse of a minor, sexual exploitation, and human trafficking, alleging that Franco had paid the girl's mother to consent to the relationship. In June of 2025, a Dominican panel found Franco guilty of sexual abuse and sentenced him to a 2-year suspended prison term, while the girl's mother received a 10-year prison sentence for sexual trafficking. The Rays removed Franco from the active roster, and he was put on MLB's restricted list. Incredibly, he played his last game at just 22 years old and had an entire career ahead of him, one that could have easily made him an all-time great. Franco's case is still in limbo after an appeals court overturned the conviction in December of 2025 and ordered a new trial. However, regardless of what happens, Wander Franco's MLB career is definitely over. Number 4, Denny McLain. After the 1969 season, the best pitcher in the American League on a clear path towards a Hall of Fame career had to be Denny McLain. McLain was signed by the White Sox after graduating high school and threw a no-hitter with 16 strikeouts in his minor league debut. After a year in the minors, the White Sox decided not to add McLain to the Major League roster, exposing him to the first-year player draft, something similar to the Rule 5 draft, and the Detroit Tigers claimed McLain. He made his big league debut at just 19 years old in 1963. By 1965, he became a full-time starter in the rotation, going 16-6 with a 2.61 ERA. He made his first All-Star team in 1966, winning 20 games. but he was just getting warmed up. By 1968, McLain was one of the best pitchers on the planet, with an insane 31-6 record and a 1.96 ERA, becoming the first pitcher to win 30 or more games in 34 years, and no one has done it since. He won the Cy Young Award and MVP award, helping the Tigers win the World Series. After the season, the mound was lowered to encourage more offense in the league, but McLain still dominated, winning a co-Cy Young Award with Mike Cuellar in 1969 with a 24-9 record. He was still just 25 years old and would surely have many more amazing seasons ahead, or so it was assumed. McLain, despite his immense talent, was a highly controversial and troubled individual throughout his career, and he was known for his outspokenness, unpredictable behavior, and off-the-field issues. In 1969, he made his third All-Star team, but due to rain, the game was rescheduled to the day of McLain's dental appointment. Without telling anyone, he kept his appointment and went to the dentist, then flew himself to Washington, D.C. for the All-Star game, arriving late, frustrating coaches and league officials. But his real downfall began in 1970 when articles were published exposing McLain's involvement in bookmaking activities. There were reports that a 1967 foot injury was caused by an organized crime figure who stomped on McLain's foot after he failed to pay owed debts. Commissioner Bowie Kuhn suspended him for the first 3 months of the 1970 season. Then the Tigers suspended him for 7 days after his return when he doused 2 sports writers with a bucket of ice water in the clubhouse. And before that suspension could even end, he was suspended for the remainder of the season when it was revealed that he had carried a gun onto the team flight earlier that year. Later that year, McLain filed for bankruptcy, and the Tigers traded him to the Washington Senators. There, he butted heads with manager Ted Williams and completely lost his ability to get outs, going 10-22 with a 4.28 ERA, although he did throw 3 shutouts. He would appear in just 20 more big league games, 5 with the A's and 15 with the Braves in 1972. Atlanta released him during 1973 spring training, and he never pitched in Major League Baseball again. McLain did have some arm trouble and injuries that impacted his performance, but ultimately it was his off-the-field issues and poor relationships with coaches that prevented teams from consistently taking a chance on him, or at least providing support through his physical setbacks. Number 3, Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Strawberry entered Major League Baseball as a physical marvel, standing 6 foot 6 inches with a looping, powerful swing that earned him comparisons to Ted Williams. As the first overall pick in the 1980 draft, he immediately lived up to the hype by winning the 1983 Rookie of the Year award, smashing 26 bombs. Over his first 8 seasons with the Mets, he was a perennial All-Star and a foundational piece of the 1986 World Championship team. By the age of 29, he had already amassed 280 home runs, a pace that put him ahead of legends like Willie Mays and fueled expectations that he would eventually challenge the all-time home run record. However, Strawberry's path towards Cooperstown was derailed by problems with substance abuse as well as legal issues. From 1984 to 1991, 8 straight seasons, he never missed an All-Star game and had 2 top 3 MVP seasons. But even during his peak, he had off-the-field issues, including struggles with drugs and alcohol, and an arrest for an alleged assault with a deadly weapon during an argument with his wife. But as he neared 30, he needed just 3 or 4 more solid years to put him over 400 homers and 2,000 hits. Unfortunately, the fall-off was too quick. The Dodgers signed him to a 5-year, $20.25 million contract after the 1990 season, and injury issues and substance abuse problems limited him to just 43 games in 1992. In 93, he hit just 140 with 5 home runs, and then was released in 1994 after failing to show up to a game. That year, he was investigated by the IRS for allegedly failing to file tax returns in excess of $300,000 of income derived from autograph and memorabilia shows. He ended up signing with San Francisco, but was still nothing near his former self. He tested positive for cocaine at the start of the 95 season, resulting in a suspension and his release by the Giants. By 1996, Strawberry was forced to continue his career in the independent leagues.
On or off the field, Strawberry and Trouble have been constant teammates. He's been arrested for allegedly beating his wife, convicted of tax evasion, and suspended from baseball in February after testing positive for cocaine.
These guys that break the law and the rules of baseball and take drugs, and they've given a second chance. and then they even break that second chance. I don't know. It's just something that I just cannot understand.
But he did find a late career resurgence as a part-time contributor and veteran leader for the Yankees dynasty, crushing 24 home runs in 1998. But his final statistics still tell the story of a career cut short by addiction and bad choices. He finished with 335 home runs and exactly 1,000 RBIs, numbers that are respectable but fall below the threshold typically required for the Hall of Fame. Number 2, Dwight Gooden. In the mid-1980s, Dwight "Doc" Gooden wasn't just a star, he was a cultural phenomenon who redefined what a young pitcher could achieve. At just 19 years old, he had a 1984 rookie season for the ages, striking out a rookie record 276 batters, winning the Rookie of the Year award, and finishing second for the Cy Young. He followed that up with perhaps the greatest pitching season of the modern era in 1985, winning the Triple Crown with a 24-4 record, a 1.53 ERA, and 268 strikeouts. He also led the league with 16 complete games. With a devastating curve dubbed Lord Charles and a high-velocity fastball, Gooden's stuff made even superstar hitters look like amateurs. Throughout his first 5 seasons, he made 4 All-Star teams and finished in the top 5 for the Cy Young 3 times. He had already accumulated over 1,000 career strikeouts, and he was excellent again in 1986, helping the Mets reach the playoffs, and they eventually won it all. Although Gooden missed the parade because he was getting high in a drug dealer's apartment. At that time, articles were already referring to him as a future Hall of Famer. But despite that historic takeoff, the trajectory of Gooden's career was tragically altered by a long and public battle with alcohol and drugs. The cracks began to show publicly as early as 1987 when he tested positive for cocaine during spring training, leading to his first stint in rehab. Despite missing a third of the season, he still went 15-7 with a 3.21 ERA. Gooden suffered a shoulder injury in 1989, but bounced back in 1990 with a 19-7 record and 223 strikeouts. But it would be his final great season. His drug issues were not the only thing holding his career back, as Gooden did suffer injuries, oftentimes attributed to such a heavy workload in his early 20s, but the drug abuse certainly did not help him get his career back on track. During the strike-shortened 1994 season, at age 29, his last year with the Mets, Gooden tested positive for cocaine use and was suspended for 60 days. In the middle of his suspension, he tested positive again and was suspended for the entire 1995 season. He signed with the Yankees for the 1996 season and at one point proved he could still be absolutely unhittable, literally.
Waiting, makes the catch, a no-hitter for Dwight Gooden.
Gooden threw a no-hitter against the Mariners, the first no-no by a Yankee right-hander since Don Larson's perfect game in the '56 World Series. But for the season, he went 11-7 with a 5.01 ERA. And for the next 4 years, he bounced around different teams, struggling to find any consistency. Gooden retired in March of 2001 after getting cut by the Yankees in spring training. More than half of his career 194 wins came before the age of 25. Sadly, his alcohol, drug, and legal problems continued into retirement, with multiple arrests occurring between 2001 and 2019. However, since then, he's appeared to be clean and sober, focusing on his recovery and helping others. Number 1, Josh Hamilton. But coming in at number 1 for me has to be Josh Hamilton, a once-in-a-generation talent who was drafted first overall in 1999. The 6'4" Hamilton could fly on the base paths, throw 97 miles per hour from the mound, and possessed a sweet and nearly effortless left-handed swing that produced unbelievable exit velocity. But saying that Josh Hamilton could have been one of the greatest is not just speculation. He eventually got the chance to prove it, but it happened long after drug addiction nearly ended his baseball career altogether. Hamilton kicked off his minor league career in rookie ball and immediately showed what he could do, hitting .347 with 10 home runs and 48 RBIs in 56 games. In A-ball the next year, he hit .302 in 96 games, still just 19 years old. Then, an event that completely altered history occurred when Hamilton and his mother were injured in a car accident in February of 2001. His parents, who had been supporting him in person during his early minor league career, returned home, and Hamilton, alone and injured, had his first drink of alcohol at age 20, and then began spending time in a tattoo parlor, drinking and using drugs. it quickly turned into a horrible addiction. When he was able to return to the field, he played well, hitting .303 in high A in 2002, but he would leave his teams and resurface later on several occasions, resulting in suspensions. During spring training 2003, he failed a drug test and continued to leave the team without notice. He eventually took off the entire season due to personal reasons. Hamilton was suspended 30 games in 2004 for failing another drug test, and then after 2 more failures, he was suspended for the entire season without playing in a single game. Before the 2005 season, he was arrested for smashing the windshield of a friend's truck, and the Rays placed him on the restricted list. He missed that year as well, meaning he missed 3 consecutive seasons. Entering 2006, Josh Hamilton had played in 0 professional baseball games over the previous 3 years and got basically 0 baseball reps during that time, spending most of his days getting drunk or high. But he had a skill set that was completely out of this world, and he would prove that over the next few years. Hamilton was offered a chance to attempt a comeback by Roy Silver, who owned a baseball academy in Florida. Hamilton agreed to work there, helping out at the facility while preparing for his comeback. The Devil Rays agreed to let him return, but he had to be put on waivers first, and not too surprisingly, not a single team claimed him. Hamilton played in just 15 minor league games to close out the year. In 2007, he was exposed to the Rule 5 draft, and the Chicago Cubs claimed him, then traded him to the Reds. In 2007 spring training, despite barely playing baseball over the past 4 years, Hamilton hit .403 and made the opening day roster, and he proved it was no fluke. His first MLB hit was a home run, and the next day he hit another. For the year, he hit .292 with 19 bombs, an absolutely unbelievable performance considering how much time he missed. The Reds traded him to the Rangers, and Hamilton became an absolute superstar, leading the league with 130 RBIs while smashing 32 home runs. He put on a show never seen before at the 2008 Home Run Derby, crushing tape measure bomb after tape measure bomb. Hamilton made 5 straight All-Star teams and even won an MVP in 2010, hitting .359 with 32 home runs. He had one of the most impressive 5-year stretches ever seen, even crushing 4 home runs in a single game, all without a proper minor league development shortly after 4 years of not playing baseball. Unfortunately, his decision to sign a 5-year, $125 million contract with the Angels marked the beginning of a sharp decline. His time in LA was marred by persistent shoulder and knee injuries, alongside a high-profile alcohol relapse that strained his relationship with the organization. By the time he was traded back to the Texas Rangers in 2015, the explosive athleticism that had defined his MVP peak was gone, replaced by a body that was essentially broken down. But the simple fact that Josh Hamilton put together 5 years of absolute goatish numbers, despite essentially 0 minor league development in the prior 4 years, proves that he was a complete natural. And had that car accident never occurred, or had he simply never touched drugs or alcohol, I believe Josh Hamilton would have easily surpassed 500 home runs, perhaps 600, and would have been considered one of the all-time greats, alongside names like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, and Barry Bonds. And that's going to wrap up today's video on the top 10 what-if players, athletes who had the skill set to be not just MLB superstars, but all-time greats and Hall of Famers, but whose careers were derailed by poor decisions and addiction. Let me know who else I could have put on today's list in that comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to y'all in the next one.